Hey everybody, welcome to another Hell of a Way to Die news update. So this is going to be probably the last one of the year. Partially because we all deserve a break and it's Christmas. I'm going to have a lot of time off, spend time with the family, do work on the house, all the dad shit that generally needs to happen. But also, my everybody else is kind of taking a break from podcasting. We'll see. Maybe I'll get Carrie, but I'm not going to have my sound guys. They're going to be, Tom and Nate are going to be busy doing Christmas stuff. So, this is probably going to be the last one, but don't fret because I do have a regular episode still coming out this week. We have a bonus episode that's dropping this week, and I'm going to be releasing a bonus episode from the vault for Christmas week. So you have that to look forward to as well. I think I'm going to do the Eve 6 interview with Max from Eve 6 because that was on the the Patreon, so we'll bring that out for Christmas. We always like to bring one of our favorite episodes out as an excuse to not do any actual work and say, look what you're missing, some of the interviews that you're missing there. There will probably also be a few changes in the podcast and release schedules after the new year. I think that I'm going to start releasing interview episodes early on the Patreon and then later on the regular stream, but you'll still be getting these on a regular basis every week. And I still want to be doing those interview episodes. My goal has always been one episode a week. But if like 2 or 3 times a month, I can give you 2 with some interviews with some interesting people about different things. I know I've got a person that does reporting on over the road freight that I want to talk to. Lots of. I mean, if you've been a fan of the show, the interviews. So those will still be out there, but as an enticement, maybe shove them behind a paywall for a week or 2 before we release them. So, but there will always be free stuff. Don't worry about that. We never forget our humble roots of giving content to the hogs as much of it as we can. So I've got a couple things that I want to cover here. This might take up pretty much the extent of this. I do have a reading that I'm going to plug onto the back of this, also from an old Women's Home Companion magazine. I read from this a few weeks ago. I'm going to be doing another reading from it. It's actually about, because that magazine is from 1943. So it's middle of the war, very, very middle of the war. Very far away from the day that'll live in infamy, but we're still not quite up to Hitler putting one through his head in a bunker in Germany somewhere. So, but the questions are about, what do you do after the war? What to think about after the war? And, kind of looking for a group of nations to get together. And at the time they had the League of Nations, and they're like, the League of Nations are useless. We need some sort of United Nations that will be effective. And we got halfway there, not the half that we needed, but I mean, I guess we got one half of it. So there's some really interesting questions and discussions that happen in there. So we'll be reading from that. So let's go ahead and jump in. What don't you want to hear more than so in war crimes news from what I have away? We have 2 war crimes things to talk about, but not American war crimes. So we're flipping it. We're going to talk about the British and their war crimes. Of course, not to make this into a look at the British. We understand there's glass houses here. We're not certainly saying look at these guys. We certainly didn't do things like this at all. But I will say we didn't do any Bloody Sunday. So Soldier F will face murder trial. If you're not familiar with Bloody Sunday, and I mean I know people have kind of a passing knowledge of it, and I will admit I had a very passing knowledge of it as well. You may know it as a very bloody day in Bloody Sunday, a very violent day during the protests, Northern Ireland protests against England. There was a big civil rights rally. Parachute regiment came in and murdered the shit out of a lot of people, a lot of them kids too, a lot of teenagers. They just came through and basically hunted civilians in the streets. It went on for 10 or 15 minutes. Go over to Lions Led by Donkeys and listen to, there's a 4-part series on the Troubles that leads up to and really culminates with Bloody Sunday. You'll learn a whole lot about it. So Soldier F was one of the more violent psychopaths. And this is 52 years since that happened. So this guy is near on, death as it is. But the families of those that were murdered are really wanting to, as you can imagine, 50 years on, witnesses are dying because of old age, just because, the ones who survived are just not really with us anymore. So they're really wanting to get moving with this. And so there's not a firm date set yet, but fuck them. Eventually getting your day in court, even if it's this, we all celebrate Kissinger's death, right? I understand he lived 100 years. Technically, he won because he never faced any repercussions. And I'm sure he'd never lost a wink of sleep for anything that he did. But we still celebrated his death because fuck him. So I understand there's a large period of time here that we've missed that this could have been rightfully handled. But as you can imagine, the British Ministry of Defense was lying about everything for a very long time, basically blaming the reason why the parachute regiment started shooting at the civilians was they were IRA operatives, and they were throwing bombs and shooting guns, so they were defending themselves. That was absolutely not true. It has been found to be not true. So, and for a very long time, but for also a very long time, it was very heavily covered up, like decades. Remember, there's 50 years of time here, and there was a large stretch of time where there was a lot of just not coming to terms with what the fuck they did. So. Thankfully, this is finally getting its day in court. Maybe. We'll see. But it's a step in the right direction. Our second war crimes news. So this one from Seth, this tweet from Seth Hart. I've had Seth on the show. Great guy. He is tweeting about this Mail Online article about the British Ministry of Defense admitting finally, we think our guys did some war crimes. And so I was reading this. I'm like, what's the 80 prisoners executed? But it's over a series of multiple years in the Helmand province. Of because the one I knew about was executing 9 Taliban operatives who were handcuffed behind their back. Whether or not they're Taliban, immaterial. You have them captured. You have them subdued. You do not walk up behind them and put one in their heads. That's a war crime. We all agree on that. I don't give a shit about your politics. That's a war crime. You don't do that. You're a bitch if you do that, really. If the only way that you're killing people is by execution, it means you're just a huge bitch. So Ministry of Defense is finally actually coming to be yeah, okay, we think that there might be something to this, and offering amnesty for anybody who comes forward with evidence, and we'll see. We'll see if that brings a couple of the really wormy guys kind of scrambling forward to say something here. I don't know. I don't really hold out too much hope. It's the British Ministry of Defense. Really, what do you expect? Governments lie and cover up their soldiers, and it looks like at this point it just got too many people knew. There always becomes a breaking point. It seems where you finally have to be yeah, okay, so we did. So we tortured some folks, as former President Obama said once. Glad to see a little bit of movement on this. All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about, that's all the war crime news. Don't worry, we're not going to dive deep into stuff like that. But if you had missed it because it's over the pond stuff, here's some news here, some British news, so you can have a happy Christmas. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about this, the Modern Warfare Institute, the blog over at West Point. They had put out for a essay contest, and basically anybody could enter. You, me, anybody that could enter, and it was basically to discuss the recruiting crisis in the Army, right? So if you have not heard, you don't know, the Army has been having problems with recruitment. There's a lot of factors. I know a lot of people think that it's quality of life. Some people think that it's sexual harassment or sexual assault. Some people think that it's economy is too good. Economy is good. People don't need to join the Army and get a guaranteed job when they can make better money somewhere else. There's a lot of different factors. And the answer is all of those things, for sure. there's a lot of things that could improve the overall quality of life for soldiers, and do better to bring in to be more enticing to your average 17-year-old who doesn't know what he's gonna do, right? That's how they fucking got me. The year 2000. 17 years old, didn't know what else to do with my life, so I joined the fucking army, of all things. I wasn't even out of high school. Like, they let you do that. That's how fucked up it is. They let a high school fucking junior join the army because I was technically 17 years old. So I just had to get a permission slip from my mom to say it was okay if I joined the army. Isn't that nice of everybody? This was pre 9/11, so it was like, the worst is going to happen is he's going to do a 6-month rotation to the Balkans in Bosnia or something, which was a rotation that public affairs did a lot. I was actually hoping to do that. It sounded cool. No, I didn't do that. I went other places. So the article that ended up winning, and I read through some of the other ones that were published. The article that ended up winning was kind of a curious one, and I don't really know if winning is the correct term here, because it was they consider it, this is our number one rank. They picked 3 of the ones they liked the best, and these are not. Like, I was expecting, like, kind of an exhaustive, like, here's figures and numbers and statistics. I was expecting kind of a Matt Bruning, Nate Silver kind of deep dive, and with lots of graphs that you have to, like, really scrutinize. But these were all really, like, short and sweet, have some good ideas inside of them. The one that won was written by a second lieutenant and a cadet. And everybody was kind of thrown by that because they figured it was going to be, some TRADOC, the training, the training people, some major who's trying to get another, trying to get an OER bullets, would get, like, I won the Modern Warfare Institute essay contest or something. But they ended up picking something from 2 guys who are young and recently recruited. Now, officers, so I mean, take it as far as you will. Modern Warfare Institute is at West Point, so neither of these guys are West Pointers, though. One of them, they're both University of Michigan, so shout out to those guys, I guess. I think Joe said University of Michigan rejected him and then asked him to come back and be a speaker after he became a published writer. So each to their own, I suppose. So. Let's go through this. I'm not gonna dig too deep into it, because I don't want there to be this idea that I'm trying to rip into this, or I'm trying to be negative about anything that's said here, because I originally came into this thinking it was one thing and it turned out to be another thing. It's kind of a like, hey, we understand there's lots of things. Here's something that you might consider. One of them, and I think a lot of people like looked at it as like, this is what people are like saying is going to be the thing that ends the recruiting crisis. But no, every essay I read does specifically say, we understand that there is a lot of layers to this, that this is not an easy 1, 2, 3, here's the answer, but here is an answer. Here's something that can be kind of taken a look at. This one was about YouTube, which was kind of confusing to me. So the one that I read that was about MEPS, I understood. The military processing centers. That's where when you join the Army, you go through MEPS, and it's all your medical, signing paperwork, getting vaccinations. It's, kind of, I remembered it as like a 3-day corral downtown St. Louis, where a bunch of us were, kind of going through stuff, getting medical stuff done, and then you ship off to basic. I don't know if that's the way it's done now. That was 20 plus years ago. But MEPS is still that in-processing step. It's still the first things that you do before you go off to basic training. Make sure that you have a bank account set up. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't. So because you have to do direct deposit in the Army. So you have to get a bank account. They don't hand you a check to go take down to the liquor store anymore. So this one was a lot about, like I said, YouTube. And really, they say social media, but it's more about YouTube in particular. And I talked to my wife about it as well, and she's like, "Oh yeah, a lot of this stuff is very like it's very multi-level marketing in a way." And multi-level marketing is huge in the military because when you're a dependent and your husband or wife is stationed at a specific, place, they're at a base, it's hard to get a job that you can, gain any kind of seniority at, right? Because in 3 years, your spouse may be stationed somewhere else and you got to pick up and move. So people get into multi-level marketing because it's something that can be put on pause when necessary. It's something that can be picked up and moved around. So that's why if you ever the people getting taken in by multi-level marketing, there's not a lot of other options, especially when you're looking at jobs that you have to go into an office. Like if you're spending if you had to move across the country every 4 years, how much would you really be able to gain a foothold somewhere? Now, the person in the Army is doing it because it's part of their career, but you as a dependent don't get those options. You're not moving around for those reasons. So, I wanted to bring that up, because it does have, because in here they mention the 70-20 marketing, which is 70% of the content is focused on adding value to the communities that form the content's audience, such as news updates, tips and tutorials, general entertainment. And I stick to this by accident mostly because I post a lot and then I remember, oh yeah, I should post about my podcast or my store. But a lot of the times I'm just online posting or reading posts, one or the other. 20% of the content promotes or collaborates with other organizations. So you're supposed to be, saying, oh, check out these guys, check out those guys, because, that does get you better interaction. I probably should start doing that in the New Year's too. And then 10% is only self-promotional. So the application to the Army, and let me go ahead and give you these guys' names. Not to shit talk them, but I mean, they wrote this and it's good. Cadet Jonathan Lee and Second Lieutenant Max G. Overall contest winners. But they discuss a number of the metrics they're using here is YouTube views, like how many people have watched these YouTube videos that the Army has put out. And I don't know YouTube very well. I have YouTube for this, but I don't know YouTube as a social media platform. Like that doesn't make sense to me. It's videos that you can comment on. And I know that, as I do these updates, it is in a way social media. I am giving you information about me and I am in a way kind of talking to you, but it's just not, I guess it's just not the way that I'm used to it, which is Twitter, where you can have a back and forth discussion, but like a tweet that you make 3 days ago is gone. It's off in the ether. You're never going to see it again. But, videos people come back to and they comment on and things like that. So, I was personally kind of thrown off by it being YouTube centric, but again, my wife, being the smarter of the two of us, kind of explained, well, look, that is a huge, just because you're not posting there doesn't mean that, everybody else isn't. So, and I do, if you comment on YouTube, I try to reply. I always take the comments on YouTube. I love them. Any place where I can talk to the people that actually are listening. On Twitter, it's people that I know, but like here, I know you're listening, so it's a little different. And I do try to I do read all the comments about the podcast, even when you tell me that I suck, which has happened once or twice. I listen. I don't take that information in and do anything with it, but we see you, we hear you, and you can go fuck yourself. So. This kind of, like I said, it goes by number of Army YouTube videos by viewer count. It has this, very nice bar graph in here about like who is looking at these videos. And I don't really know how the marketing for something like this goes. I don't know how you reach me on YouTube because, again, I don't watch YouTube. So I don't know how these things are done. But it really kind of marks itself towards a... It wants to be social media, but like every social media is different. Twitter is not the same as TikTok, is not the same as YouTube, is not the same as Facebook. They all fill different functions and people work on them and connect on them differently. At least I feel. My time on Instagram versus my time on Twitter are completely different. And I do not spend much time on Instagram. I am there. You can follow me at Army Strang. I do post there sometimes when I have good pictures, and when I remember to. But Twitter is my main bread and butter. I love Twitter. It's a posting style that works well for me and that I enjoy, or gives me the dopamine burst that I really like. But like I said, YouTube centric here, and they talk about how Nike does this, how they rarely run ads solely promoting their own products. They're kind of talking about other stuff. So some of the things that these guys suggest is like a video. So we go a video series in which soldiers within the signal branch explain their day-to-day jobs and provide guidance to viewers on how to obtain certifications in industry, teach in-depth concepts, and discuss IT careers. Brief teasers on techniques taught at airborne or air assault school. That would be cool. Masterclass from Army Mountain Warfare School instructors on how to tie and use various knots and various wilderness survival skills that would appeal to rock climbing and mountaineering communities. The first time I read that, I thought that's fucking dumb, but I would watch some knot tying videos, honestly. Like if there was and I'm sure they exist. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm sure the Navy has a million of them. And I wonder, it does kind of feel like horning in on somebody else's territory. But I think something like that would be interesting. I don't know if it would be something that you get a lot of views on, though. And I don't know if that's something that would really bring people into the fold. But if you're kind of spreading this across, if you can do knot tying videos in a 60-second format, you can put it on Instagram Reels, and you can put it on TikTok, you can put it on Facebook and Twitter, these places where it's kind of a smaller area, but also have longer ones, maybe that would work. I don't know. More videos like the Battle of Bunker Hill, presenting further context in a visually engaging animated format. So I watched the Battle of Bunker Hill video, and I do not agree with trying to capture that lightning in the bottle, if that's what you were going to call it, because the animation is done nice. It's it's an animated, like a whole storyboard that you kind of wander over, but it's like a kind of a burlap storyboard, so it's more 1700-ish, I guess. I don't know. But I thought the animation was great. I do have to ding them on audio quality, because it sounded like somebody who was in like a bathroom with a record, like with earbuds recorders with the microphone that on the wire that you hold closer to your mouth for some reason. The audio on it is just garbage. But I agree with them that it's kind of an engaging way to talk about a battle. I think though the biggest problem though that you're really going to run into is, do you remember back when the Army was fielding esports teams, and then they had the big Discord that was like, yeah, come on in. Everybody just went in and was just like, so what's it like to do war crimes? That's what you're working against here, guys. Like, that's online is full of fucking insane, terrible people. Like there's no easier way to put that. Like, you're always going to be pushing against that. And I think that, online recruiting obviously has to be a big part of it. All the kids are online now, but I just don't know. I don't know. It just feels very cynical. This whole idea of like, well, what if we do these things? I don't know. I'm not against it. The Army can do whatever the fuck it wants. I'm a retired staff sergeant. Nobody cared what I said when I was in the Army either. But I feel like there's a lot of focus kind of being done on one thing here, and I don't know if that focus is where it should be focused. Maybe social media needs to be kind of spread out. Maybe, not necessarily focus it in on YouTube. I remember when the Army was on Snapchat, man. Like, there were some weird times with Army social media. So I don't know. You know what? Comment below. Tell me what you think about this. I'm going to have the link in the show notes. I encourage everybody to read it. I think it is an interesting read. I think all of them were, all the ones that I read. I like to hear other people kind of voicing their opinions on these things based on what they see, because I am a retired soldier. I am 40 years old. I am not being recruited. I do not know what the recruitment process is like. I do not know what basic training is like anymore. So I understand that, like, my experiences are far out of date. Like, I was like almost 30 when how old was I? I was 25 when smartphones were were a thing. Like 2007, I was like 24, 25 years old. So like, I'm fucking old, guys. Like, I get that. I understand it. So like, what I know is completely irrelevant. And I want to take in all this information about what these people are saying. So I think it's worthwhile reading a bunch of these essays. And you know, I'm not trying to, what am I trying to say? I'm not endorsing anything, but I do like that the conversation is happening. And I think that some of these were really cool. There were some good ideas. There was some stuff about quality of life, which absolutely is a big thing to deal with. The maps, the in-processing process can take a long time. There's a lot of changes that have happened since I joined the Army and what you have to deal with now. Like, when I joined the Army, they didn't give a shit. They're just like, whatever. You want to join the Army? You're stupid enough to do this? Fine, whatever. Just, you know, lie about your drug past. As long as they can't prove anything, there's no reason to tell them the truth. And don't have asthma, and you'll be fine. And I was. And I know that that's not the way it is anymore. It's harder to get in. So I'm not going to shit talk anybody, and I am going to put the links down there. Take a look at them, read them, see what you think. Let me know what you think. And let's see. So the final thing that we have here, juxtaposed upon this rethinking social media. The U.S. Army faces TikTok mutiny as Gen Z recruits whine about low pay, shitty food, and fitness tests while on bases in uniform. Dear, oh dear, soldiers complaining. What will the world ever come to here? Soldiers bitch, man. That's what it is. And look, some of the things that the soldiers were bitching about in here, this is Daily Mail, so obviously they're pulling out like the whiniest of the whines. You know, the people who are like, oh, I've got to, you know, run 2 miles in 18 minutes, or I have to, you know, wake up early. That's the people that they're pulling out. Kind of like not talking about all the other ones who are just, oh, this place fucking sucks. It can suck in a lot of ways. My leadership sucks. The food sucks, man. Like there's one thing that you can do to make soldiers happy, and that's give them good chow. If you can abuse your soldiers all fucking day long, but if at the end of the day they get a good hot meal, and if in the morning you got fucking hot coffee ready to go at 5 a.m., those soldiers will follow you into hell and back, man. Like it's not hard. It's not hard to say, look, maybe you should live in a place that's not crawling with black mold. So Gen Z recruits pushing against this, you know, one, makes absolute sense because we're soldiers. And I will put myself in there because I bitched and moaned about being a soldier all the time too. You don't think I complained about having to run 2 miles? You don't think I fucking complained about having to wake up ass early in the morning? Every day in basic training, we complained about that shit. Now, we didn't put it on social media, but that's because it didn't exist then. We weren't allowed our phones in basic training, which, like, I'm not trying to say that as an old asshole. I understand that, you know, having a phone communication is much different now than it was when I went through. But also, you know, we were able to express our displeasure without putting it onto a large platform. And I know a lot of times it's very easy to just kind of put stuff out there because you think, well, it's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to be the one to go viral. And personally, I've had like maybe a handful of tweets do some numbers over the fucking decade that I've been tweeting. So, you know, not exactly a great ratio. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm here because I fucking love this shit. I'm fucking into it. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. But pulling it back, soldiers complain, and you know, our generation didn't have a platform that we could put our complaints on, and that we would think maybe it's only going to be seen by like the 20 people that follow us, but it gets retweeted by the wrong person, or somebody who's looking to do inflammatory shit starts doing some searches, and then you have this come up and go through it. I remember years ago, there was a video that a young black woman, PFC, took of herself in her car when colors were going. So at 5 o'clock on every base, they play colors. And at 5 p.m., if you're outside, you're supposed, it's so fucking stupid. So you're supposed to salute, but you have to turn, you're turning towards Mecca, man. You have to turn towards wherever the flag is on base. If you don't know where that is, you just kind of look around to see where somebody else might be looking and just try to do what they're doing. Otherwise, you have people like pointing in all kinds of different directions. Because like when you salute, you're supposed to be saluting a thing. I'm saluting you, sir. I'm saluting the flag. But like 2 dudes or 5 dudes or whatever saluting and pointing in like multiple different directions looks fucking weird. It looks like nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. So anyway, this woman was, this young PFC was videotaping herself hiding from colors in her car. My God. The fucking comments on this about people like, how dare she not respect saluting the flag at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday. We've all run from it. We've all run from colors. We all do it. If you didn't do it, then you're that nerd-ass bitch that we all hated. I'm sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. You're a nerd-ass bitch. So, soldiers complain. This is nothing new, but therein lies your problem with social media. You know, bringing it back to the Modern War Institute. You know, you can make all the content you want. You can make all the great not tying videos that you want, but if fucking Private Snuffy manages to go viral because they're showing rats in their in the barracks, or they're showing mold on the food that they're being given, or sexual harassment or sexual assault. Like that stuff is going to garner more clicks than your rugged outdoor manly man tying knots. So improve things, make it so that soldiers don't really have anything like real to complain about. Soldiers will always complain, don't worry. Like you could be in the ice cream and blowjob brigades and soldiers would fucking complain. That's what we do. It's just there. But at least make it so that they're like dumb things, like, oh, you're complaining about you're complaining about having to do like the actual job that you signed up to do. I complained about running all the time too, because I hated fucking running for a long period of time because I was fat and I smoked. Now I'm just fat and I don't smoke, but I do like kind of enjoy running. It turns out when you get to exercise for yourself rather than for the army, you kind of enjoy it more. So, but anyway, again, sound off in the comments about all of this. I'm not going to post this article because it's the Daily Mail. Fuck them. But this was doing its rounds on Twitter, so I kind of wanted to talk about it, especially alongside the Modern Warfare Institute. So we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we're going to come back with a few more things. All right, everybody. So let's do some Hey Dad questions. I don't really have any media to talk about because I'm just starting a book and just starting a series, a Napoleon book, and I started watching the Scott Pilgrim animated thing on Netflix, and I'm only 2 episodes in. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to do some Hey Dad stuff. So if you want to ask questions for Hey Dad, you can always send me a DM on Twitter at ArmyStrang. I ping everybody in the Discord when I'm about ready to do this. But, if you've got something that's ingling in the back of your mind and you want to get it out, and you want to get it kind of in one of these, let me know. You can also, of course, ask down there in the comments. So the first one somebody asks is, hey, Dad, what are some of the things that people don't think of when moving in with your partner? They might be relocating for work. They don't know what they're getting into. So I've moved in with a lot of girlfriends because I am at heart a ska band drummer. I'm couch surfing into the next girl that I'm dating. So I've moved in with a lot of partners, but also roommates. I've honestly never lived alone, and I don't know if that's healthy or not. But I've always lived with a roommate or a partner. I've never really had a place of my own, which sounds kind of sad, but currently I'm in my own pod shack. I built a place where I can be alone, so that's good enough for me. But when you're moving in with a partner, some of the things that I would say is try to get an idea of who's going to do what, or how chores are going to be done. I take out the trash, and I mostly do the dishes in the house. There's two jobs that I don't mind doing. Like think of the things like. Talk to your partner. Come up with a list of shit that you just don't want to do. It's just like, I cannot stand washing dishes. Can you do dishes? Yes. Okay, cool. You do that. I'll take out the trash, or I'll take care of laundry, or things like that. And you don't have to necessarily sit down and write everything down. If you're the kind of couple that likes to do that stuff, go for it. But just have an idea of like, what is it that you do? What is it that I do? What are the things that you're okay with doing? Make sure you are doing something. Don't, just let your partner do all the things. Find things that you can do. Be the one that cleans the toilet, maybe. The toilet needs to be cleaned. Right now, it needs to be cleaned in your house. We get these little disposable toilet wands, you just scrub the inside of it. It's fantastic. I would also say, don't look for a complete 50-50 split on anything. If you're roommates, then sure, yes, find the 50-50, put the tape down the middle of the living room or whatever. That's your side. This is my side. But when you're with somebody who supposedly you love and want to spend your time with, the 50-50 division of labor and funds and things like that, if you get too much in your head about that, it's going to fuck you over. Like, you're going to think that I do this and I do that, and I'm doing too much, because sometimes you only see the things you do. Now, if you are truly the only one who does stuff while your partner lays on the fainting couch eating bonbons, yes, have that conversation. Say something to them. But also understand, maybe you're going to do a little bit more, maybe you're going to do a little bit less. And if you're the one who's doing less, find ways to kind of make it up. Little gifts for your spouse or for your partner. Hey, you've been working really hard. Let me take you out to dinner. Let's, something like that. Find the ways that you can kind of build back up to it. Then you can find your even keel there, I guess. But also, if you're the one who's doing most of the work, look for your partner and say, like, well, what are the things that they're doing that I'm not seeing? Invisible labor is a thing. And sometimes people are working a lot harder than maybe they look like they're working, because they're not physically working, but they're mentally working. So keep that in mind. I try to. I really try to with my wife. She's with our kid all the time, and our kid does not stop talking. So I try, whatever I can give to make her day. At the end of the day, I try. I do my best. I'm not always perfect, but I do my best. And that would be the third thing. You're not going to be perfect. They're not going to be perfect. Be okay with that. And you're just going to need a lot of grace to get to where it's effortless. Like, now I can't imagine not living with my wife. Like, having to deal with that whole house by myself is frightening, and I know she thinks the exact same way. So that's the equilibrium you're looking for, is the I can't do this without you, please don't leave me kind of thing, I guess. No, we love each other. It's great. All right. So somebody asked, this was big. I wanted to talk about this one last week. I didn't get to it. So what do I get my dad for Christmas, birthday, Father's Day? Dads are hard to shop for, and I'm not allowed to buy him any more Duluth Trading Company shirts. So what we do for our family, and because I am the youngest and I'm 40, and let me tell you, this is what I want too. I don't really want things. I have enough things. I have lots of things. Now, if there's something very specific that you're like, oh, Francis would really love this, or my wife, oh, Beth would really love this, I'll pick this up for them. We picked up a greeting card at the art museum, a Christmas card at the art museum for a friend of ours, because it's a Christmas card of his favorite painting in the gallery, but like Santa is painted into it. So, there's little things that are just like, oh, here's a cute little thing that really speaks to this one person. All that stuff's great. But snacks. Give me snacks. Give me food. Do you know what I like? If you don't, ask me. Like, I know that I can do nuts with my dad. I can do. Oh, I should get him. I should get him those. Right now is when you can get the big bags of nuts that you can crack, and he always had those around the house. It's actually a habit we've picked up now. We've got a whole nut bowl with nut picks and everything. So snacks, consumable, always welcome, and it's something that you can give me, and that goes away eventually. And because people always think that you have to give things, but just if you give me like a little basket, and it's got a box of Cheez-Its and a couple of cheeses I really like, and maybe like some nice soda crackers or something, and a spreadable, like the what are the Hillshire Farms things? But like those things suck. Don't buy your dad a Hillshire Farm like vacuum sealed cheese and meat thing. Go to the store, get some good stuff. Go, every grocery store now has like a decent cheese section where you can get some good stuff. Find a couple cheeses, find some salami or something, or whatever your dad likes, whatever the male in your family really enjoys. Find those snacks. Get him a bottle of whiskey. Jack Daniels is fine. Little Makers, or whatever they like to drink, a 6-pack of beer, something like that. You can easily spend $40 on a present for your dad that has just like, oh shit, my weekend food is done. I'm good here. Like you gave me a weekend's worth of like all of my favorite foods. This is great. Your dad's gonna love it. And it's not a thing that you're gonna have to like find a place for and dust later, which I think is the big thing for me. I have enough things. I will buy myself things. Like I buy myself shit all the time. Where do you think half of this stuff up here comes from? It's like, it's me. I buy myself my dumb shit. All right. When I'm sick, should I go to a doctor? Fucking yes. Jesus Christ. Go to the doctor. All right. So we've got one about moving to a different state. Advice on searching or moving long distances. The subreddits for those cities I've found are really great places to go to because every city subreddit complains about their city, but as soon as somebody's just like, hey, I want to move there, they will become the biggest like advocates for their city. I fucking hate St. Louis sometimes. Like, dear God, this city is so poorly ran and so corrupt in so many ways, and our cops are just the most useless pricks in the world, and the money is just the money hemorrhages as fast as the people do. But by God, if you're ever just like, hey man, I'm going to come to St. Louis for the weekend, what should I do? I will give you a fucking day by day of what you should. I could give you 2 weeks worth of shit to do in St. Louis every day. I will wear you down in this city. I swear to God, I will do it. We will be hitting up, not Panera, but St. Louis Bread Company, because this is where that shit started. And we will be getting some of those electrified lemonades that kill you. And that's how we're going to start every day. So go there, find those people, ask them about it. Moving long distance, moving to a different city in America it's kind of like moving to a different country in some ways, like, but it's easier because like, the money is still the same and the government is still mostly the same and everybody probably speaks the same language as you, at least to a point. But, Philadelphia and Chicago and New York and LA are all different from each other. St. Louis and Memphis and Louisville are all different from each other. No matter how big or small you get, every city is going to be very different from one another and have very different customs. And you are always going to be kind of an outsider for a long time. Like that's, at this point, I don't want to leave St. Louis because I know anywhere else I go, I am the outlier at that point. So, I don't want to move to Philadelphia and have to try to figure out yins and yinzers. I don't want to do it. I would rather just stay here, call the people I hate Hoosiers, and eat toasted raviolis. That's where I want to be. All right, one more. Let's see. Oh yeah. So balancing dad life with personal life. This is a big one for a lot of people, and something that my wife and I kind of made when she was pregnant. We really wanted to make sure that we maintained our individuality. We didn't want to become so-and-so's mom, so-and-so's dad. Like, I swear, I've seen that, like, with school functions. We homeschool, so I don't have to deal with it. But I see, I've heard these stories. I've seen pictures of you go to a school function and you, as the parent, put on a name tag, but you don't put your name on it. You put, like Braylee's dad. That is so frightening to me. Like, why would you? I'm a person, goddammit. I am a person. So are you. You are a person, and your kid does not define you. You are still a person. And I'm not saying this to be, as be narcissistic, but I am saying this because if some people are okay with just losing themselves in their family and in their kid, and that's great. I am not. And I love my family. I love my kid. I love doing stuff with her. It's great. But I also have my own things. I also have my own projects. I have my own goals. I have things that I want to do. The podcast started after she was born. And this has been my really great way of maintaining my own individuality and my own friend base. My wife has her job. She does travel agencies, but she has a lot of people too. Like, we have our own things in our own personal goals that we reach for. And I think that's what's most important, is have yourself a goal, just any goal, like anything that you want to do, that you want to, do as yourself, not as the family, not as a father, but for yourself. And find that and work towards that. And once you do one, make it an easy one that you can do. And then kind of build on that. I've been doing more painting, just because, I don't know, I've never done it before. So I wanted to see, do I enjoy it? Is this something that I can fit in? And I've got a big chunk of time between Christmas and New Year's that I'm going to do some more painting and stuff. And I think that that's really the best way to maintain that balancing act. It's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It is hard to maintain that for a lot of reasons, but mostly because a kid changes every 6 months. Like, they don't tell you that. In the beginning, your kid is constantly changing because they're getting bigger. There's a big difference between year 0 and year 1, year 1 and year 2. Like, really, the whole toddler age is defined in months up to 48. So 36 months usually, which is 3 years. Some people go to 48 for 4 months. I think that's a little bit far, but my kid's 8, and she is always changing. Like, she is not the same person she was 6 months ago. We do not have necessarily all the same routines now that we had then. So that all that stuff is always going to be changing. Kids are always going to be chaos. Kids are always going to throw a wrench into whatever you're doing. That is the beauty and the tragedy of a child. They'll spark joy and wonder in you, and then also you will get called on a Tuesday morning in January when it's snowing that your kid is throwing up and you need to come pick them up. It happens. You don't get the high highs without the low lows, I suppose. So, but for yourself, find something that is just for you. Find something that you can fit into little bits of time. Even if it's just reading a book. Like, hey, I want to read this book. If you're a book reader, start a Goodreads or a journal. Journaling is a great way to start that kind of process. And then maybe you can take it a little bit farther or take it out into something else. Or maybe journaling is the thing that you like, Just have something that's just for you. This podcast is a business, but really it is in a lot of ways just for me. This is my continued therapy. Rather than go to a licensed therapist, I come on Twitter and I talk about things. And I guess it kind of works the same. I always figured that most of us that talk into a camera for unbrokenly for 15 to 60 minutes or so, probably have something wrong with our brains, and we're needing to get a lot of stuff out. So that was Hey Dad. I hope some of those things helped you. I know Christmas is fast approaching. We get this out as soon as possible. So if you have that, what do I get my dad? Oh God, what do I get my dad? Go to the grocery store, get him some snacks, but open his pantry. What does he have a bunch of? Go buy him that shit. Go find the crunchy snacks that your dad enjoys. Go find the drink that your dad enjoys. Go get all that shit. Bring it on in. You'll be golden. Okay, just to cap it all off, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being subscribers. It's New Year coming up. Personally, that very rarely means anything to me, other than I get a chance to kind of reset some things. But I am really grateful for all the people that do listen and do watch and do participate in all of this. I understand I'm very lucky to have what I have here, to build this goofy little business that every once in a while my wife and I both stop and did we just really sell a bunch of catnip infused toys that are full of catnip that look like joints to people on the internet. And yes, we do. And that seems to be a viable form of income. So I'm very grateful that this podcast is a part of it. And I'm grateful that it is a thing that I can use to discuss all of these things and possibly make my brain a little bit better in the process. Maybe we'll see. Court's still out on that, but anyway, the store is going to be open as always. I'm not going to post a bunch of stuff. I'm always going to be updating it with some things, but right now I'm going to be working on cleaning up my basement like a real dad does, but also work on some new products for next year. Some more handmade stuff. I think I'm getting more and more into using my painting and my Cricut and using signs. So a lot of that stuff is probably going to go up in the store too. So anyway, thank you guys. And I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll talk to you next week.